Obviously excited to get going with our next series. The Florida series, I felt like we learned a lot. There's still some pieces that we still need to get better in, but that's why you play in the SEC. So getting ready for Auburn. Auburn had, they were on the road this weekend. They have some pitching that I think can throw any team in fits. So it'll be up to us to make those adjustments. I felt like lefty this weekend was back to her normal self. So I feel like we're in a better headspace there. Now we just got to go out and keep that consistent performance and then get some big hits when we need some big hits.
Yeah, you talked about after the Sunday about possibly tweaking things. Your offense has really been very productive so far, Trisha, but 9 runs, and you could say, well, it's against a third-ranked team, but they're missing their best pitcher. You're also at home. So you look back when you looked at all the tape as an anomaly moving forward, or what about your hitting?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we hit a couple of like black holes that kind of popped up, you know, but I don't think it's going to be something that's here forever. You know, I think we just didn't do some things adjustment-wise that we needed to. So I don't think it's going to carry over. I hope it doesn't carry over. But you know, I think that we are going to continue to be that pain in the butt, meaning we have the ability from the top of our lineup, the middle of our lineup, and the bottom of our lineup to get things going. So I just think we have to sometimes regroup, and some of your biggest learning opportunities come through losses.
And then what about your first road trip? And you know, Matt brought a good point. You went to Florida State, which might help you for this, and you're facing an Auburn team that started 0-3. So if you could touch about maybe the atmosphere, and then B, if you could talk about the pitcher that transferred from Oklahoma, and she's pitched in 21 of the 24 games. So my guess is you'll see her.
Yeah, I think most of our players, well, all of our returning players played at the Auburn Stadium last year in the SEC tournament. So that I feel good with. Part of the reason why we, Coach Harger really, but we scheduled the Florida State series is to feel like an SEC tournament, or I'm sorry, series on the road, to get that feeling of feeling like it's the home team and the visiting team, two very distinct. You know, when you play in these neutral sites, you don't really get that home team and visiting team. So I do feel better that we did that. I think that Auburn is going to be, you know, ready to go. They play again today. I think they're on the road at Georgia Tech. So I think they're, you know, they have some pieces. The thing is that they have a lot of, like, kind of like my first year when I took over, there's a lot of new energy, you know, excitement, all of those things. And they have a new coaching staff, so I think you can see that. You can see the players rallying around them. So they have a lot of good energy. Obviously, they had a first weekend of the SEC, and the SEC is hard. And I think they're good enough to beat any team in the SEC if somebody doesn't show up. I think SJ is going to be somebody that keeps them in a lot of games. She's a lefty thumber. Obviously started off at Oklahoma, and she was recruited there for a reason. She's a high spin rate, can locate her pitches, and her pitches move pretty well. Her velo is just, it's actually effectively slow. And so she's going to be somebody where she maxes out at around 60. So, you know, as a team, you have to really do a better job of timing up and having the approach of, you know, taking balls opposite field, those types of things, because you're going to be early. So our slappers, some things that we worked on with them is just slowing their feet down, making sure that our pitch selection is really good, because when you have a lower velo kid, and we saw this at the beginning of this year, you tend to broaden your strike zone because you have more time to see it, and you're like, oh, that looks good, and then all of a sudden it doesn't look good. So that's something that it's going to be key for us, is keeping our strike zone very, very tight and making sure that we are executing pitches over the middle part of the plate.
You guys have been at home for
I know it's been nice, yes.
What's the, you know, maybe the challenges or maybe the excitement going on the road, you know, it's being a more hostile environment and having to really focus in on yourself?
Yeah, I think, you know, we spent the first weekend here, and then we went on the road for 2 weeks, and then we were home for 2 weeks. So now we're kind of flipping back and forth here in conference play, of going back and forth. So I'm actually excited to go on the road. I think it's good for us. It brings new challenges. you never want to get too comfortable in a season, and I think playing at home over and over and over again can kind of put us in that state. So, you know, I like being the underdog. You guys know that. It's been something that I always try to put us in that mental state. So I think on the road really emphasizes that type of atmosphere.
KK and Maya were just in here, and they're both slugging at an unreal clip right now, both over 700. I think Maya's over 800. Can you speak to the luxury of having two massive bats like that in your lineup at all times?
Yeah, it's pitch selection, to be honest with you. I think they've done a great job of sticking to the plan. I mean, look at how many walks Maya has. I mean, she's done a great job of just being a patient hitter and then making teams pay when they leave it over the plate. So KK is another one. We were actually just talking about her upstairs. Is just, she's somebody that, you know, listens, you know. So when you're talking about a game plan, you're talking about approach, she's really been a sponge this year, which is why I think her and Frankie have done such a tremendous job. Is they've kept it very simple. They're almost naive enough to just like do what you tell them to do, and they've seen success. So hopefully that carries on for 4 years, you know. And I think Maya is kind of on the flip side. She went through a lot of struggles last year and trying to figure out like what's going on. I've always been this type of a hitter, and I wasn't. And then obviously in Super Regionals had the big hit, and it kind of flipped her, like one at bat. And so she's been a good example for some of those that have been sitting on the bench or freshmen that haven't had as many opportunities to be like, hey, one at bat can really kind of change your mindset. So I think both of them bring different kind of perspectives on where they're coming from. But I think really what it's come down to is being able to execute balls over the plate.
So I assume you haven't, but I asked if you crossed paths with Chris anywhere along the way.
I haven't directly crossed paths. I mean, we see each other out recruiting and stuff. I know he started here, a very nice man, and somebody that I think plays the game the right way. So yeah, I mean, but nothing. Yeah.
And then how about 2 or 3 of your observations of the other 4 opening SEC series last weekend? Anything jump out at you?
Yes, South Carolina. I felt like, wow, I mean, she's done a good job. They're scrappy. I actually asked a couple people that were there that got to watch it, because I get stuck in my A&M bubble, and they're like, she just has them believing and playing really hard. So that was one that I definitely had some eyeballs on. The other one was Ole Miss, Arkansas. Ole Miss is a new, you know, kind of new assistant coaches, like a new staff. So Bobby Buchanan, who was here, is at Ole Miss. So I looked at that one a little bit. Those were probably the 2 that I paid attention to from this past weekend. Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah. Which is actually a lot for me, because usually Matt will tell you, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I just know, like, we're playing Auburn this weekend. Yeah. Yeah.